Welcome to this explainer. Today we're opening up what you could call a dark field guide. We are venturing way off the marked trails to examine some of the absolutely most terrifying, unexplained encounters ever reported in America's most isolated wilderness areas. We're going to look closely at actual eyewitness accounts from seasoned hikers, campers, and even park rangers who came face to face with impossible creatures. It's going to be a fascinating, highly structured journey into the unknown, so let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive right in. Now, we all know the postcard-perfect image of our national parks, right? We're talking family fun, those gorgeous jewel-tone lakes, and stunning granite cliffs. But there is a stark, truly terrifying reality experienced by the witnesses in our sources. Because instead of serene birdsong, they're reporting guttural, bone-chilling screams. And instead of spotting deer or black bears, they're describing 8-foot-tall apex predators. The contrast here is massive. We're looking at environments that are heavily marketed as completely safe recreational spaces, yet they occasionally host this primal dread and encounters that literally shatter our entire understanding of biology.
Which brings us directly to the core question of today's explainer. What really lurks in the deepest, most isolated corners of America's national parks? I mean, when you strip away the paved roads and the busy visitor centers, you're left with millions of acres of raw, untamed wilderness. And as we're about to see, the people who actually venture into those deep recesses sometimes find out the hard way that we might not be at the top of the food chain after all.
So, to make sense of this huge influx of the bizarre reports, we've structured our field guide into 3 distinct categories. First, the primal apes. Second, the upright canines. And finally, the bizarre anomalies. Let's open the guide.
Category 1. The primal ape men, with sightings at Hot Springs and Mount Rainier.
Listen, we aren't just talking about regular bears standing on their hind legs here. We're talking about a level of violence where prey is literally, and I quote, torn in half from the stomach down. That's exactly what a hiker named David discovered at Hot Springs National Park. He went back to a trail to find evidence of a massive creature he'd spotted a few weeks prior. But instead, he was hit with this foul, putrid odor and found a deer carcass ripped completely in two by something with immense, unnatural strength. And moments later, an 8-foot-tall beast with glowing amber eyes and long dagger-like claws appeared right behind him. It chased him all the way into a narrow cave where he had to hide in terror for hours. It's a pretty stark reminder of the sheer physical power we're dealing with in this first category.
Now, what's really interesting is the terrifying escalation of these encounters. Take Forest Escape at Mount Rainier National Park, for example. It started with an eerie, absolute silence in the woods, which, if you know anything about the outdoors, is a classic sign of an apex predator. Then came heavy, thunderous footsteps. This triggered a desperate, blind chase through the dense forest. Forrest barely managed to dive into his pickup truck just as an 8-foot-tall, reddish-haired beast literally burst from the tree line. And the creature didn't just stop at the edge of the woods. It hammered its fists against the side of the truck and pressed its flat, rage-filled face right up against the glass while Forrest was frantically trying to get his engine to start.
But honestly, here is the absolute most chilling detail of all of this. It let him go. Think about it. A creature with the sheer strength to rip a deer in half or shatter a truck window with a single blow could easily catch and kill a fleeing human. But they don't. Instead, they exhibit this highly intelligent, extremely territorial behavior. It's a chilling behavioral pattern we see in both David's and Forrest's accounts. They seem to use their incredible speed and size just to traumatize and banish witnesses from their domain. It's basically an aggressive eviction notice rather than a hunt for prey.
Category 2. The upright canines at Yellowstone, Zion, and the Smokies.
Okay, so while ape-like creatures definitely exist in folklore, giant wolves casually walking on 2 legs completely shatters our understanding of mammalian anatomy. Because, let's be honest, regular wolves are terrifying enough without needing them to be bipeds. We're looking at a staggering 10-foot-tall stature here. They possess powerful wolf-like hind legs, yet shockingly human-like forelimbs equipped with sharp talons. And they don't just awkwardly walk on 2 legs like a dog doing a party trick. They have a stooped, purposeful bipedal walk, often pivoting their torsos in a highly predatory manner. A group of friends in Zion National Park even heard a bone-chilling howl echoing through the canyon right after spotting one of these impossibly tall, skinny wolves striding straight down a service road.
The bipedal canine anomaly defies basically all anatomy. The most haunting example of this comes from a camper in Grand Teton National Park. This witness watched a massive canine with a stooped posture and an enormous head trot awkwardly up a slope. But then, the creature stopped, sat back on its haunches, stretched out its surprisingly human-like forelimbs, and casually scratched itself like a person.
It's those small, impossibly human behavioral details that make these canine anomalies so profoundly disturbing for the people who witness them.
Let's move on to Category 3, bizarre and alien entities in Acadia, Glacier, and Shenandoah.
If you thought the apes and the upright canines were strange, this category throws earthly biology completely out the nearest window. We are entering the realm of bizarre and alien entities, and the sheer variety is just staggering. In Shenandoah, a hiker watched a tiny 6-inch tall humanoid wearing woven grass clothing sorting through debris in an old barn. I mean, no way, right? Down in Big Bend, 2 campers were paralyzed by a leathery gargoyle with sunken black eyes and massive wings perched in a tree. But perhaps the most visceral horror comes from a backpacker named Colton up in Glacier National Park. High in the alpine tundra, enveloped in freezing fog and this sudden foul sulfur odor, Colton was confronted by a creature with skin like burnt flesh, twisted horns curling back from its skull, and yellow slitted eyes. It actually reached out a clawed hand toward him before Colton had to literally throw himself down a slippery scree slope just to escape. Guys, these aren't misidentified bears. These are monsters straight out of nightmares.
And somehow, it gets even stranger. One witness described a creature cloaking in front of her, quote, kind of like the movie The Predator. A mother named Melissa was hiking with her kids in Acadia National Park when she locked eyes with an 8-foot-tall praying mantis. Yeah, you heard me right, a giant insect. It had long, spindly arms, bulbous eyes, and was wearing some sort of reflective golden device on its chest. After just staring at her for a moment, it simply drifted into obscurity, literally turning invisible. Encounters exactly like this completely shatter the boundaries of the natural woods and heavily suggest we might be brushing up against realities we simply do not understand.
This psychological toll, surviving the encounter. Because surviving the physical encounter in the woods is so often just the beginning of the nightmare. So the crucial point here is comparing the physical escape to the psychological trap. Fleeing down a mountain slope or locking yourself in a truck gets your physical body to safety, but your mind stays trapped. Remember Forrest from Mount Rainier? Well, he tried to go back to the woods a year later with his family to conquer his fear. But his 5-year-old daughter ran out of the trees absolutely terrified, claiming she saw a giant praying mantis. After they fled that time, Forrest actually began suffering from horrific, reoccurring premonitions of his family dying. Melissa, the mother who saw the cloaking mantis we just talked about, now completely refuses to go anywhere near the woods. These parks leave lasting, debilitating psychological scars on the people who witness what's really hiding just off the trail. Which brings us to the end of our dark field guide and leaves us with one final, very provocative question to chew on. Are we the ultimate predators of the parks, or are we just trespassers in their territory? We go out, we build visitor centers, we lay down asphalt, all while pretending we've somehow tamed the wild. But the data from these terrifying encounters heavily suggests that the deepest corners of the woods belong to something else entirely. Something primal, something incredibly intelligent, and sometimes something completely impossible. So definitely think about that the next time you step off the pavement and into the trees. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes open out there.